The subject sat in the center of the anechoic chamber, a room so perfectly insulated that it absorbed 99.9% of all sound. Within minutes, the silence did not feel peaceful. It felt heavy, like a physical weight pressing against the eardrums. Outside the observation glass, neuroscientists watched the subject's brain scans ignite in a frantic display of crimson and orange. Despite the absolute safety and emptiness of the room, the subject's amygdala, the brain's ancient alarm system, was firing as if a predator were inches away. The void was not empty to the brain. It was a canvas for the mind's darkest projections, proving that for the human consciousness, nothingness is the ultimate threat. The beginning. Horror vacui, a Latin phrase translating to fear of empty space, was originally a concept in visual arts describing the tendency to fill an entire surface with detail. However, in the realm of psychology and neuroscience, it describes a much more primal instinct. Humans are fundamentally pattern-seeking creatures. From an evolutionary standpoint, information equals survival. A forest filled with the sound of birds and the rustle of leaves provide a data stream that the brain can categorize as safe or dangerous. When a human enters a truly empty or silent space, often referred to as a liminal space or a sensory void, that data stream vanishes. The brain, stripped of its ability to map the environment, enters a state of high alert. This is not a choice, but a biological imperative. The vacuum of information forces the brain into an aggressive search mode, and when it finds nothing, it begins to create noise to fill the gap. The rising action. The center of this reaction lies deep within the temporal lobe, the amygdala. This almond-shaped cluster of nuclei is responsible for the fight or flight response. When the eye sends signals of a vast, featureless room or a dark, silent hallway, the amygdala doesn't see peace. It sees a lack of intelligence. In nature, an absolute silence often precedes a predator strike or a natural disaster. Therefore, the amygdala interprets empty as vulnerable. As the amygdala sounds the alarm, the body is flooded with cortisol and adrenaline. The heart rate increases and the senses become hyperacute. This state of hypervigilance is why in an empty house, a simple house-settling creak sounds like a footstep. The brain is amplifying tiny signals, desperately trying to turn nothing into something, so it can develop a defense strategy. Furthermore, the pareidolia effect begins to take hold. This is the brain's tendency to see patterns, especially faces, in random stimuli. In a cluttered room, a jacket on a chair is just a jacket. In an empty, dimly lit room, the brain's visual cortex, starved for data, might interpret the shadow of that same jacket as a crouching figure. The brain would rather be wrong and scared than right and dead. It chooses to hallucinate a threat rather than accept the terrifying ambiguity of a void. The climax. The peak of horror vacui is observed in total sensory deprivation experiments. When both light and sound are removed, the brain's relationship with reality begins to fracture within an incredibly short window. Without external anchors, the internal world of the mind spills outward. In a famous study, participants kept in a dark, silent room began to report complex hallucinations, flickering lights, distant chanting, and the sensation of being touched. This is the climax of the neurological struggle. The brain, realizing it cannot find a pattern in the environment, begins to project its own internal patterns onto the void. It's a desperate, frantic attempt by the consciousness to maintain its structure. This is why the backrooms or infinite hallway aesthetic is so deeply unsettling to the modern viewer. These environments offer just enough familiarity to suggest a human space, but just enough emptiness to trigger the horror vacui response. The brain enters a loop. It recognizes the carpet and the walls, but the lack of furniture, people, or purpose creates a functional void. The amygdala remains trapped in a permanent state of loading, unable to finalize its assessment of the room, leading to a lingering existential dread that is far more taxing than a sudden jump scare. The conclusion. Why does the brain fear the empty? Because to the brain, emptiness is the end of the world. Our survival has always depended on our ability to navigate, categorize, and dominate our surroundings. A void is the one thing we cannot control. Horror vacui is a testament to the power of the human imagination and the ancient biology that keeps us alive. We fill our homes with objects, our lives with noise, and our screens with data, not just for comfort, but as a shield against the primal realization that beneath our civilization lies a vast, silent indifference. We fear the empty room because it reminds us that without our patterns, we are lost. As we continue to explore the depths of neuroscience, we find that the nothing we fear is actually the most active part of our minds, proving that even in the deepest silence, the brain is never truly quiet.